Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast. We provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your high intensity training business. Get more clients for your hit business when you download our free evidence-based presentation on the anti-aging effects of strength training. So this is fantastic if you've got a speaking engagement and your target market are very interested in the anti-aging effects of strength training. So it's great for getting new clients, but also great for educating your existing clients and retaining your clients over the long term. So you can get that over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. That's highintensitybusiness.com/free. Download your free anti-aging presentation now. So this podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Exercise. It's not really, that's a joke, but I'm wearing an Ultimate Exercise t-shirt. And many of you will be very familiar with Ultimate Exercise because it is the studio owned and run by Dr. Doug McGuff, who is a great guru in the high intensity training space. He would hate to be called that, but I guess that is kind of what he is to many of us. And he's based in Seneca, South Carolina. It's quite a funny story around this t-shirt. He sent me this t-shirt in the post and it's too big. And I said to Doug, this is too big for me. I think it's a large and I'm probably a medium or a small because I'm quite a skinny guy. And Doug just wrote back and said, you'll grow into it. So that was probably a few years ago. Doug, I haven't grown into it. I'm really trying to grow that muscle tissue, but I'm just not sure if it's going to happen without the help of some type of performance enhancing drugs, but we'll see. This is episode 399. And in this episode, I'm going to describe to you how you can save thousands of hours with AI and specifically ChatGPT in your high intensity training business. So this is a life-changing invention, which is going to change the world significantly in the months and years to follow. But in this podcast, I'm really just going to focus on one thing, and that's the business application in HIT. The application in your business, how you can get results using this technology right now. I'm not going to be talking too much and prognosticating into the future. I might a little bit, but not too much because I get way out of my depth. So I'm going to try and keep this relatively focused. So what is ChatGPT? Maybe you've already heard about it. You probably have because it's been all over the media since its release in November 2022. Maybe you're tired and sick of hearing about it. I know plenty of people who are in that camp. Maybe, like me, there is a ban in your household and you're no longer allowed to talk about ChatGPT or AI. That's absolutely true. I'm not kidding you. I get very obsessed about things. I get very kind of single focused. You know, I got like that when the whole crypto thing started. I just get like that with different opportunities and business trends and things like that. And that's the same with this whole AI trend. But maybe I always say this, but I feel like this is probably the most significant invention, perhaps in my lifetime. But we will see how that plays out. But yeah, I can become quite annoying. And so hence the ban in my household. You know, I first heard about ChatGPT probably about a month ago. I had a friend over who told me how he had used it for some 360 feedback in his organization. And he'd been quite sly and not necessarily overly ethical in his usage of the technology. And, you know, I was listening to him talk about it and I really had very little interest. I just didn't think it sounded that compelling. And I really gave it no further thought until I just saw it start to pop up everywhere. And you know, I asked him to send me a link about what it was about, and I didn't even click the link. But I heard it in a few times at different places. And then I went back to my text conversation with this friend, and I saw that it was the same technology. And I thought, okay, I'm hearing this from enough places. I should probably take a look. And that's typically how I end up getting around to reading a book or looking into something. It's because I get loads of recommendations. I find that's quite a good filter because, you know, we get overwhelmed with so many things to check and learn about, right? So quick caveat before I get too much into this episode. You know, I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence by a long shot. And when I talk about AI technology with very smart people that I know, I quickly get to a point where I have absolutely no idea what is happening or what they're talking about because it is very complicated. And there's a reason why there's sort of very few people on this world who really understand this technology and they're, you know, spending their lives working on it and furthering it. And they're incredibly smart people. So there's the caveat. So take what I have to say here with a pinch of salt because I'm not an expert on AI at all. But what I am good at is seeing how new technologies, innovations can help your business grow. And obviously in this case, we're very much focused on the high intensity training business. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. So let's just kick off with a few definitions here. So very briefly, what is ChatGPT? Well, ChatGPT is a chat bot. It was recently launched by a company called OpenAI. And basically, it's a powerful AI bot that engages in human-like dialogue based on a prompt. So if you can imagine, and I'm not going to share my screen because I really want to keep this simple, but you can check it out yourself. If you imagine just a very simple chat screen, imagine, the first version of MSN or some kind of, chat service online, something like that, but super simple, which just words, right? Just a chat box and just words back and forth. So that's what this looks like. And the AI has basically been trained on a huge data set that was pre-2021. So there's already some limitation. Anything that's happened after that, it hasn't been exposed to. So there are some slight limitations. So the way the chat works and the way the chatbot works is it's basically like a back and forth conversation that you can have on any topic. And you're using prompts, which are questions or requests, to really refine the responses that you're getting and to try and get the information that you're looking for. So if I give you an example, an actual use case, in fact, in our business, so I used it to write a short email newsletter to focus on talking about the benefits of strength training as it relates to myokines. So I literally put a prompt in to say, write me a short email newsletter talking about the benefits of strength training, specifically related to the secretion of myokines and the health benefits. And it wrote it out in a matter of seconds. And then I just wrote a second prompt saying, make this a little bit more scientific, because it was quite high level. And please talk about the mechanisms. And then it rewrote it a little bit more scientific, not too much, and talked about the mechanisms. And with a few touches, maybe 5 minutes of additional work, it was ready to go out to the list. It's amazing, right? So that would have taken me, usually I'd spend an hour up to an hour a week on the email newsletter. And last week I spent 5 minutes. So you can see the time saving could be just incredible with this. So with all that said, the best way to really understand what it is, rather than listen to me, is actually just go and use it. Just go to chatgpt.com or whatever it is, just search that and it'll come up. And you can just go and use it. It's very user-friendly. You'll get it straight away and you'll understand the utility immediately, or you'll start to see the potential straight away. So now you're probably thinking, okay, Lawrence, that's all well and good, but how does this really help me make more money in high intensity training business and save time like you promised at the start of this podcast? So I'm going to go into exactly how you can do that immediately. Before I do, there are obviously some limitations to this technology. It can spit out some generic information, which isn't really that useful depending on the requests, especially if you're not very good at the prompts. It's interesting. The skill here is really in your ability to prompt the chat to provide you the right type of information and to know when it's going to be useful for a certain prompt and not. So that comes with practice. And one of the themes during this podcast is to really implore you to actually go and play around with ChatGPT, because this technology is going nowhere. It gives you a massive advantage in your business immediately. And I feel like now is the time to dabble. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a complete tech laggard and you hate this stuff. I think once you see the utility and the value, you'll think otherwise. And I really think we should all be using this. So I'm not going to dwell on the limitations too much. There are more. And I'm just really going to focus on the value and how you use it to get results. So I'm going to go through, let's see here. I've got 8 use cases that I've come across so far. And I'm coming across, new use cases on a daily basis. Whenever I'm doing anything in the business, and the way I typically work is I block out my week for really key activities that help push the studio business forward. And whenever I look at one, I think, okay, could I use ChatGPT to basically make this, do this in 5 minutes or do this in a fraction of the time? And that's quite often what I've discovered. So let me tell you about the first one. So use case number 1, I've already mentioned email newsletters, right? So you could, many of us we want to educate our lists, educate our existing clients, our prospects on the value of strength training so that they never leave. And obviously so that they are converted to free workouts as well. And so the way to do that is obviously to talk about a lot of the health benefits. And you can be so specific with this. The email newsletter I wrote last week was with regard to the evidence that supports supervised exercise over unsupervised exercise. And again, just wrote out a whole email, exactly the right length I asked for. I wrote a little prompt back to say, could you please provide more evidence, and put it in a nice bulleted list. And it did exactly that. And again, this was produced in a matter of seconds. I just had to tweak it a little bit, which took a couple of minutes. You can see we're moving away from the execution side of some of this knowledge work, some of this computer-based work that we're doing, and moving into more of a quality assurance type of role, which is very interesting. But you can see the leverage is enormous. You save so much time which you can now spend on other things. So obviously that the different use cases from just in terms of client communications is endless. Blog posts, emails, social media posts, all these things, we can use this AI technology to really help us produce the first draft. And our first draft is underselling it, really, because what it does produce is almost a final draft. The next use case I want to talk about is the utility of using it for your trainer development program. So many of you will have heard me talk to the likes of Luke Carlson over at Discover Strength, who's been open about how Discover Strength do such a wonderful job in developing their trainers and giving them just a fantastic internal education. And one of the things they do is they have quizzes on the various books within our niche, books like Body by Science by Dr. Doug McGuff, who I mentioned earlier, books like A Practical Approach to Strength Training by Matt Britsky, Ellington Darden's book on the new high-intensity training. So these are quite niche books that people outside of the high-intensity training niche aren't probably going to be that aware of. Not all of them, but maybe some of them. But nonetheless, they're obviously very important books to our niche, and books that we want our trainers to absorb and to remember, so that they can then implement what they learn when they're training clients and when they're educating clients as well. It's one of the ways that Discover Strength do that, as they create multiple choice, I'm guessing a little bit there, quizzes for their team. And this is something which I've had on my to-do list for a while in terms of creating a quiz like this for our team as we grow the team. And I've always put it off because I'm thinking, wow, it's going to take me quite a bit of time to do that. And in fact, I've thought about outsourcing that to someone, maybe to like a virtual assistant or something like that, or a researcher. But anyway, ChatGPT has solved this problem for me. I simply put in the chat prompt, please can you create a multiple choice quiz for the book Body by Science by Dr. Doug McGuff, and it literally produced a quiz within seconds. It wasn't perfect. I had to do a bit of refining, but it would have saved me so much time in doing that. So that's fantastic. So now I'm so excited because I can look at our whole syllabus of books that we want trainers to read and quizzes that we want to create to help with retention of information of those books. And I can produce that in really a fraction of the time it would have taken with the likes of this technology. So hopefully that makes sense. So the prompt for that was, please, I don't know why I say the word please. I treat it like a human, which is weird. Create a multiple choice test on the book Body by Science, or on the book A Practical Approach to Strength Training by Matt Britsky. And then it just produced a bunch of questions. And I think I followed up with a prompt and said, can you produce 30 more questions? And it was just awesome. And it created exactly that. So use case 3, optimizing your communications, your emails, and your subject lines for great open rates. So for example, I wrote an email recently engaging local colleges and universities to go in and speak and start building relationships and to look for graduates for new trainers. I just wrote out an email, and I had an email a while ago that I used, and I copy and pasted it into the chatbot just to see how it would improve on it. And, I just pasted the email in and said, please modify this, improve it, make it more persuasive. And it did so. It just changes the semantics, changes the sentence structure, the lexicon to just make it more compelling. And then I wrote, please, can you optimize the subject line for the best open rate? And then it gave me this great subject line, which was like, empower your students to become great personal trainers, or something like that. And so that got a great response. I sent it out to a bunch of potential heads of faculty for various colleges and universities in Galway, and got some great reactions. So that's another use case. So you can see how that could scale to lots of different email communication that you might do. Use case number 4, research. This is super interesting. So you can find research to support things you're looking for in a heartbeat. So for example, if you were to type in, what does the preponderance of research show about how to train to optimize muscle hypertrophy? It will tell you, it basically spat out like the guidance, like the overall high level, like this is how you optimize. And then I followed up with a prompt, show me the evidence. And then it summarized all the key research and all the meta-analyses up to 2021. So you can just think how productive this is going to make scientists and researchers when they're trying to pull other papers in terms of producing new research and stuff like that. And it makes our job much easier when we're trying to pull research to support certain claims that we might make in emails or when talking to clients or what have you, or maybe stuff we're trying to put on the website, which otherwise would take a lot longer. In fact, in HIT Business Membership, I have a thread in there which categorizes all these studies by different things that studio owners are looking to talk about to clients, whether that's body recomposition, improvements in strength, health span, the value of supervised versus unsupervised, bone mineral density. And I partly feel that some of that list is a little bit redundant now, because you can simply use this service to just make the request you're looking for to find the research you want to support the claims you're making. Another example of, if you're doing, you're creating a trainer development program, and you're looking to maybe select the top 20 meta-analyses on strength training that you want your trainers to read or what have you, then again, it's just so easy to source this information through this service. I find that Google obviously still has a lot of utility, but I just find this is superior for this type of request right now. So use case number 5, legals. So we've recently gone through a process to update and have our terms and conditions and policy documents and waivers, etc., reviewed. We wanted to get some really professional legal oversight to make sure that they were correct and in alignment with the laws in the Republic of Ireland, etc. But this is a very expensive process. We had a quote back, and it's expensive. It costs thousands of euro or thousands of dollars. And it's something that many of us obviously like to avoid and like to try and reduce costs on. Now, again, caveat: probably shouldn't be using an AI chatbot to do our legal work for us. Clearly, you should be working with a qualified professional. However, as a short-term solution, I put our existing documents through, or at least the terms and conditions, through the AI just to see what it would do, and I asked it to make the language clearer, make it, try and align it with Irish law, etc. And it just did a great job. It just made the language so much more succinct, so much clearer. And obviously that's the whole point with these types of documents and the way they're written. It's just to make it abundantly clear what the terms are. And I just was blown away. And so I thought, do we even need to have this reviewed? And do we need to invest all this money in having a team of lawyers actually redo these documents? So that's something that we are thinking about at the moment. And at the very least, it's certainly going to save us a lot of time with them and a lot of money as well, which is fantastic. So if you think this is only version 3, and I believe version 4 of this service is coming out imminently, or at least this year, and it's amazing to think what the possibilities might be in the next version, if it can already do stuff like this. Use case 6, and this is one of the most exciting ones for me, is improving on your systems and processes. Look, I know many of you hate doing systems, right? I know it's just something that you keep putting off. And this might actually be a huge solution for you. What you can simply do is take your existing system or existing process. Let's say that's a sales process, how you run the free workouts when you get a new client in, what's the process that the trainer, salesperson goes through with the client in terms of the consultation, and what does a workout look like, what's the pitch look like at the end, etc. And you can take this checklist, put it into ChatGPT again, and just say, can you simplify this? Can you make it more succinct? And ask any request of it, and it will change it and it will optimize your system or your process. And then obviously this can scale across all your processes. So we have a manual which has all of our processes for, how we onboard clients, how we train a client in the studio, how we design a workout. And it's just so cool to be able to take these processes and refine them using this service. It just takes the load off. We should always be trying to obviously simplify our processes to make them as simple and easy to follow as possible. And I found this very, very useful for doing that. And obviously you can create processes from scratch as well using this system. So I went in and I think the prompt I asked was, could you create an instructional process for using the Med-X 4-way neck? And it just came up with a process. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it was very close and it needed a few tweaks. But yeah, really, really impressive first draft. So again, you can see the utility there is pretty astounding and can save you a ton of time in refining these things over time. Now, as a business owner, you should be spending a lot of your time working on the business and creating and refining these systems and processes. So this is going to give you even more leverage. And needless to say, use case 7, this is really going to improve, help you tailor, modify any copy or written work you're doing, whether that's website copy, job descriptions, advertising, anything. It's really going to speed it up and just make you more effective at it. And the last use case that I can think of right now is also how to. So, one of the tasks I was doing recently is just moving all my files from one Google Drive to another Google Drive for a specific business. So I just typed in, how do you transfer files from one Google Drive to another? And it just gave me a really clear checklist. So I think Google is still obviously great for this kind of how-to stuff, but I think the AI might just be a bit faster and a bit better at getting you straight to the information you need, which is partly the point. Speed is everything. I also asked it to show me how to prorate a client contract in Mindbody just to see what it could do. And again, it obviously pulled the right data from what it was exposed to pre-2021 and showed me exactly how to do that within Mindbody as well, which is client management software for fitness business if you weren't aware. So that's fantastic. So you can see there's a lot of how-to utility there as well. So those are 8 use cases. There's many more, I'm sure. I'm literally discovering a new use case on a daily basis. Maybe you are using it in a much smarter way than I am. And if you are, please write to me, Lawrence@highintensitybusiness.com, or just leave a comment in the post to this and share with me what you've been doing. Because I think I'm excited for this because all of us want high intensity training to be more successful. We want more people to engage in this. We want it to have more exposure. And I think in terms of competing in the fitness industry, I think if we can all start dabbling in this and using it to our advantage, we can have a big advantage in our businesses. So share with me what you're doing. I want to know. So just so you're aware, I actually just cut a big part of this podcast out because I promised I would not go into things I didn't understand very well. And I recorded a whole bit there on the existential crisis facing personal training. But, actually having gone through some of my thoughts there and thought out loud, I actually think I just have no clue what I'm talking about in terms of how AI might impact personal training. So I will reserve my opinion and I will continue to learn. But I think we do have to be open to the threats that AI poses to personal training in the, medium and long term, because frankly, I don't think we know exactly what's going to happen there. But, all indications seem to point to the fact that it's going to be some time before AI can really replace personal training, if at all. So we shall see. And as I said, I wanted to keep this quite focused on the business application in high intensity training. So we will steer away from the existential crisis of AI and how it might disrupt personal training. So with all of that said, hopefully you found it useful and hopefully you feel like you can go away and start to test and use this technology in your business to gain some advantage right away. And what I just implore you again is highlight the fact that I think it's so important to be practicing this now and using it and just dabbling in it. It's so easy to get started. There's really no friction. There's really no reason not to. And so I would do that now just so you can take massive advantage and start to save a ton of time. We're talking thousands of hours potentially in your business. And if you've got, I also thought if you've got like a leadership team or managers or a team who are spending time writing documents or doing a lot of emails and stuff like that, this is going to save them so much time. So think how that leverage just scales across your business. This is very exciting. So that's the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. As always, it really helps the show. Subscribe on YouTube over at youtube.com/high intensity business. So you can check out my ultimate exercise t-shirt and my awkward video presentation. And if you want to get more clients for your high intensity training business, download our free evidence-based presentation based on the anti-aging benefits of strength training. Go to highintensitybusiness.com/free to download that now. This presentation is perfect for speaking engagements and getting more clients, and also educating your existing clients so they never leave you. Download now over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. To find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and then search for episode 399. And this will probably be the last solo podcast for a while. I am looking to get more guests on and follow that usual structure going forward. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.